War did not always look this way. Before machine guns, battles were often fought with swords, spears, cannons, and single-shot firearms. Soldiers carried muskets or rifles that could fire only one bullet before needing to reload. A well-trained soldier might fire a few shots per minute. This meant there were often pauses during the fighting while men reloaded their weapons. During these pauses, armies could even charge at the enemy. In those days, charging the enemy took a lot of courage, as you will expect. Soldiers lined up shoulder to shoulder, fire their muskets, and then use their bayonets, the knife blades at the end of rifles, for close combat. The cavalry, soldiers on horses with swords or lances, would gallop toward enemy lines, hoping to break through with speed and shock. These tactics had an element of heroism. A brave individual could become a celebrated hero for leading a daring charge or holding the line against all odds. War was often described as glorious or honorable in literature and art. However, even before the machine gun, technology was changing warfare. By the late 19th century, rifles had become more accurate and could shoot farther. Early rapid-fire weapons like the Gatling gun were invented in the 1860s. The Gatling gun used a hand crank to spin multiple barrels and could fire many bullets very quickly. It was one of the first weapons to shoot a stream of bullets, but it was heavy and had to be turned by hand. The US Army was initially unsure about using these new rapid-fire guns and only started using Gatling guns after the Civil War. George Custer, an American officer, even left his Gatling guns behind because he thought they would slow him down. He suffered a famous defeat at the Battle of Little Bighorn, and many wonder if those guns would have made a difference. I wouldn't blame George too much though. Before machine guns, battles still relied on human muscle and bravery. Normal guns were slow, and brave charges could sometimes succeed if timed right. The image of a heroic war, where gallant soldiers won battles through personal courage, was still very much alive. But all of this was about to change with one new invention that would make charging directly at an enemy almost impossible. The first fully automatic machine gun was invented in 1884 by an American-born inventor named Hiram Stevens Maxim, cool name. Unlike the Gatling gun, Maxim's design did not need a hand crank. It could fire bullets continuously as long as the trigger was held down and it had ammunition. Maxim accomplished this by using the energy of each bullet's recoil, the backward kick when a gun is fired, to eject the used cartridge and load the next one. In simple terms, the gun powered itself. You could just press the trigger and bang, bang, bang. The bullets would keep coming out one after another automatically. This invention was revolutionary. Early tests showed that the Maxim gun could fire about 500 rounds per minute. This gave it the firepower of roughly 100 rifles. It was as if one soldier suddenly had the power of an entire unit. The machine gun did not get tired. It did not need to pause for reloading after every shot, and it could send a continuous stream of bullets toward the enemy. To keep the gun from overheating due to rapid fire, Maxim's design even included a water cooling system. The cooling system was a jacket around the barrel that held water to absorb heat. All these features made the machine gun a fearsome new tool of war. There were a couple of drawbacks at first. The original Maxim gun was very heavy, over 130 pounds in weight. It usually sat on a tripod or wheels and was not easy to move around quickly. It often required a team of soldiers to operate, one to fire, others to feed ammunition, and then a couple to carry parts. Despite this clunkiness, its impact was huge. Armies quickly saw that a few machine guns could completely change a battle. By 1889, the British Army had adopted the Maxim gun, and soon armies of Germany, Russia, and others in Europe bought Maxim guns too. With its debut, the Maxim gun earned a grim reputation too. An American officer in Europe in the 1880s reportedly told Hiram Maxim, "If you want to make a pile of money, invent something that will enable these Europeans to cut each other's throats with greater facility. In other words, invent a better tool for war." Sadly, Maxim did exactly that. His machine gun, the first of its kind, would soon be used in conflicts around the world, and it will make war far deadlier than before. When the machine gun was introduced, it gave a huge advantage to those who had it, especially in battles against those who did not. In the late 19th century, European colonial powers like Britain carried Maxim guns into battles in Africa and Asia. The results were devastating and one-sided. One of the first major tests was the First Matabele War in what is now Zimbabwe. In one battle, 700 British soldiers armed with just 5 Maxim guns fought off 5,000 African warriors who were armed mostly with spears and older guns. The machine guns ripped through the attacking warriors, and the British soldiers, who were vastly outnumbered, managed to win the battle with relatively few losses. An observer at the time noted it was the Maxim gun that made this possible. A British poet later wrote a little rhyme about such fights. "Whatever happens, we have got the Maxim gun and they have not." It was a boast that having the machine gun allowed European armies to defeat indigenous fighters far more easily. Another example was the Battle of Omdurman in Sudan. The British Army faced a much larger force of Sudanese Mahdist warriors. The Mahdists were brave fighters, many on horseback or foot, with swords, spears, and a few outdated firearms. The British forces positioned dozens of machine guns along with artillery. When the Mahdist warriors charged, the British opened up with rapid continuous fire. The results were horrific. About 12,000 Sudanese were cut down dead and 13,000 wounded, almost all within a few hours. In contrast, the British had fewer than 50 soldiers killed. The advancing Mahdist warriors were stopped well before they could get close. This was perhaps the most one-sided battle in modern history. It clearly demonstrated the killing potential of the machine gun. This early use of machine guns were mostly in colonial wars, where one side had modern weapons and the other did not. Such battles sent a clear message to the world. Charging directly into a machine gun's fire was suicidal. Despite these lessons, many military leaders in Europe did not fully grasp how much warfare had changed. When World War I started in 1914, many people thought it would be a quick war like earlier European wars. Some generals believed in the spirit of the offensive, thinking brave soldiers with bayonets could still charge and win battles with courage. They did not fully account for how the machine gun had changed the battlefield. Very quickly, reality struck. Armies that marched in neat rows or charged on open fields were mowed down by machine gun fire. In the first months of World War I, battles led to colossal casualties that stunned the world. By the end of 1914, only 5 months into the war, more than 4 million men had been killed or wounded in the fighting. Many of these casualties were caused by machine guns. Soldiers on all sides quickly learned that you could not survive in the open against an enemy who had machine guns. The only way to stay alive was to take cover, so both armies dug into the earth for protection. Machine guns forced the armies on the Western Front to dig trenches to protect themselves. These trenches were long, deep ditches dug into the ground where soldiers could shelter from bullets and shrapnel. Opposing armies created lines of trenches facing each other, stretching for hundreds of miles. Between the opposing trenches lay a deadly expanse called No Man's Land. No Man's Land was the area that neither side firmly controlled, often a wasteland of mud, shell craters, and barbed wire. Any soldier trying to cross No Man's Land could be easily targeted. Machine guns could sweep this area with bullets, making it almost impossible for soldiers to run across. Charging enemy trenches became a nightmare scenario. Soldiers would climb out of their trench and move forward only to be met with a hail of bullets from multiple machine guns. In such conditions, courage and heroism seemed to lose their meaning. No matter how brave a soldier was, he could be cut down in an instant by a machine gun bullet that he never saw coming. Cavalry charges, the once daring tactic of sending men on horses to attack, was impossible on the Western Front. Horses and riders stood no chance against rapid-firing guns and the web of barbed wire. A galloping horseman with a sword would just be an easy target. Cavalry units were eventually taken off their horses and used as regular infantry in the trenches. The era of proud knights and mounted charges was over, pushed into the past by the machine gun's ferocious firepower. Inside the trenches, war became a slow, grinding stalemate. Neither side could easily move the other because anyone who tried to rush forward in the open would be shot. Soldiers lived for months in muddy, wet trenches under constant threats from machine guns and shell fire. Battles were no longer quick. Instead, they became battles of attrition, wearing the enemy down slowly. The machine gun had turned the battlefield into a meat grinder where mass bravery often led to mass death. It's hard to overstate how much the machine gun changed the face of warfare. Even after World War I, the influence of the machine gun lived on and continued to grow. Today, almost every firearm used by armies has some automatic or semi-automatic capability, a concept that began with the machine gun. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe.